Hi, and welcome to Season 2 of Big Sound Small Town, the podcast that spotlights the talented and diverse musicians in small towns and communities. This season we're branching out to include the community of people who make it possible for musicians to be able to perform their music, the producers, the recording engineers, the venue owners, and many others, and as always, the small town musicians. Remember, small town doesn't mean small talent. Hear their stories. Mary has been a part of the COVID-19 sessions, although technically by phone would have been almost the only way I could have gotten in touch with her, even though she is a Shelby native. When I set this up, she was going to England, and by the time I got this done, she was back in Los Angeles. But nevertheless, she's still a part of the COVID-19 sessions. That being said, I must have been very nervous because I start this interview by saying pandemic. Who knows what I was thinking. Nervous, I guess, because I was speaking to a celebrity. She has a great story. I mean, how many people can take a harp, go on the road with a rock and roll band, go to Europe and play, go to LA and play and work? It's a fabulous story. Listen up. It's a good one. Today, Big Sound Small Town is in the Pink Room at the Big Bass Studio. And my guest today is a harpist. I know you don't believe that, but I swear this is true. Mary Lattimore. She's world renowned, and welcome to the show, Mary.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me.
All right, so we'll touch on the fact that we're here during the great pandemic that is going on. Otherwise, you would be working, and there would not be a chance in the world of me being able to get an interview with you.
Oh, that's not true.
Are you not the busiest harpist in the world?
I'm pretty busy, but I think I'm busy in the same way that everybody who has a job is busy. It's like playing the harp is not only my love, but it's also my job, and so I'm
right
on the road a lot, just doing my work. So,
and for everyone that is listening, please tell us where you work out of.
I am in Los Angeles, so I moved here about 3 years ago. I lived in Philadelphia for a really long time, for 13 years, and then I just moved to LA kind of recently, so that's where I am in the quarantine. I'm in Los Angeles, California. Okay, well now we talked earlier, and I know that before the first of the year you were going to England, so you travel worldwide, is that correct? Yes, I do. Yep.
That's all right. Now this is the part that people want to know. How did a girl from Cleveland County, North Carolina, become a harp player to begin with?
Well, my mom is a harpist, and I grew up in Asheville when I was a child, and then we moved to Cleveland County, in 1991,
right.
When I was 11, and because my dad got a job at Cleveland Mills.
Sure.
And so but growing up in Asheville, my mom was the harpist with the Asheville Symphony, so she just retired last year.
Oh, okay.
But she was the harpist since she was maybe 25 years old, so she was a long-time Asheville Symphony harpist, and she still has a harp ensemble called the Blue Ridge Harp Ensemble, and so she's a very active harpist and musician, and So it was kind of natural. I'm the oldest child, so it's kind of natural for the first
True.
first child to kind of learn how to play the harp. My mom's a really enthusiastic harpist and loves to show people how beautiful the instrument is, and so she was really excited for me to learn. So I started learning when I was 11.
When you were 11?
Mm-hmm.
And I guess you did not have to take lessons. I mean, I guess your mother, being the professional she was your teacher.
She wasn't actually.
Oh, really?
Because she rightly had the idea that we would fight too much if she was my teacher, and so
I do understand
she got one
that.
of her friends to start teaching me, and then I started taking lessons in Charlotte with Betty Ross of the Charlotte Symphony, and so we would go every week to take to have my lesson in Charlotte.
Did you take to this naturally? I mean, was this love at first sight, or?
I would say not fully. Like, I had fun with it when I was doing well, but like, when you're a kid, you don't want to practice so much.
Yes.
Traveling to Charlotte every single week was kind of hard when you want to be social and hang out, and school day is long, and then you have to drive an hour and a half to her house. Or, as a kid, I probably wasn't the most excited about my lessons or sitting down to practice for hours. But now I love it, and I'm really grateful that my mom really encouraged me and provided me with a harp and was a mentor in that way. So.
I mean, I guess you were putting in a lot of woodshedding with no performance, or not any, but few performance chances at that age.
Well, I started playing with the Shelby High Orchestra.
Okay.
And so they gave me, like, my junior and senior year there, they gave me a lot of opportunities to learn and play, be the featured soloist with the orchestra. So that was really scary and really fun.
Now,
at the same time.
Did you play like in middle school? Did you get to?
I wasn't that good in middle school. I started learning in middle school, so I didn't really play in front of people except for like little recitals in Charlotte.
Right. Yeah. Gotcha.
Through my teacher.
Well, at school with the orchestra, I guess, would that been during the Ed Allison era?
Mr. Okay. Allison. He's my orchestra teacher.
Sure, I know Ed.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. He's actually taught my children and grandchildren over the years.
Wow.
Was that the only instrument that you played? I mean, was that your whole beginning of music? Was the harp?
I started out on piano when I was 5, so I played piano up until I started playing the harp.
Yeah, okay.
It's kind of a good foundation if you want to learn the harp, because they're kind of the same, basically, as far as the scales go and all that.
True. Yeah, I can see that. Plus, you learn to read when you do that also, which...
Yep, exactly.
I don't know.
And you learn how to use both hands, too, left hand and right hand.
This is true. Yeah, I did not think of that either.
Yeah.
Okay. This is for more gear people than anything else, but all right, tell me what kind of harp that do you play, and just explain to everybody the key that it's in, how you tune it. Give my audience a rundown.
Okay, a little harp lesson over in the quarantine time.
Yes.
Well, I played a Lyon and Healy Concert Grand Style 30, and it's black, and it's about 6 feet tall. It's the largest of the harps, and it's in the key of C, basically, kind of like the white notes on the piano.
Right, exactly.
But then there are pedals. So there's 7 pedals. So the scale is C, D, E, F, G, A, B, and the strings are color coded. So the C's are red, and the F's are blue or black, and so you can kind of tell where everything is in relation to those color coded notes.
Right.
And so then there are 7 pedals. So there's a C pedal, D pedal, E pedal, F pedal. You know, there's
Right.
a pedal for each tone of the scale.
Right.
And then each pedal has 3 notches. So you kind of slide, you would slide the C pedal down one little notch, and it would be, well, the top notch is C flat.
Right.
And that's the loosest that the strings can be.
Right.
C flat. And then you slide it into the second notch, and that's C natural.
Okay.
And then you slide it into the bottom notch, and
Right.
that is C sharp. So that's as taut as the C string can be. So it's kind of, those are kind of the black notes on the piano.
That's okay. That's good for people to know that.
Yeah, the sharps and flats are controlled by the pedals, and so you really can have any key that you want. Like the harp
Right.
can play in any key.
Right. Is there a standard harp key that most of the stuff that you do is in?
Nope.
I mean, it's not like a saxophone or a woodwind. It's so you're open pretty much. Stuff is written. I mean, stuff is written when it's written just for harp. Then it can be written in any key.
Exactly. So it's like harp music and piano music are basically
I can see that.
very, very akin to each other, and so like just like the piano, you can play it in any key. The harp can be played in any key.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Now, okay, this is extended a little farther. Now, are these all individual notes that you play, or do you do things around like triads or chords or?
Oh yeah, tons of chords.
Okay.
But you only play with 8 fingers. You don't play with your pinkies at all.
Yeah,
and so the 8-finger chords are the max number.
That's still a bit. I mean, that's a huge chord, no matter what you're playing. So okay, so we're in high school and we're doing this. Now, what's the next step after high school?
After high school, I applied to go to the Eastman School of Music in Rochester, New York.
Right.
And I didn't think I would be able to get in. It's a really good school for the harp, but they accepted me, and so I went up to Rochester and I stayed there. I studied there for 3 out of the 4 years, and that was cool to go from Shelby to Rochester. It's kind of scary because most of my friends were staying in North Carolina.
Sure.
But just went off up there and studied the harp, and then for my junior year of college, I studied abroad. So I went to Milan in Italy for the first semester, and then Vienna, Austria for the second semester, and just kind of got a taste of Europe and learning harp in those cities and getting to know different kinds of people and stuff. It was really great.
Did the Europeans take a different approach to than the American, than what you'd been studying?
Not so much technique-wise, because I feel like I was learning like a French technique.
Right.
And that was kind of a universal kind of technique that my other the European teachers were also teaching.
Oh, okay.
So I guess it was just my teacher in Milan.
Yeah.
She was the harpist with the opera company, and so I got to go and sit on the stage, and also the ballet, and so I got to sit on the stage and like turn the pages for her during her rehearsals, and it was just kind of an overall cool experience to see how a working musician in Europe operates, and kind of she lived a pretty glamorous life. I'm sure she still does, and so that was kind of fun to be a part of.
Oh, I'm sure it was. Yeah, that's definitely.
Yeah.
So okay, now I get at this point you've already decided this is what you're going to do with your life, but when do we get jobs that start paying and start, this unlike let's say a guitarist, I play, but all of a sudden, hey, I meet somebody and we go, and I instead of playing for $40 in beer, all of a sudden I'm out touring. So I mean, how did this come about for you?
For me, I was still playing only classical music in college, and then after I graduated, I moved back to Vienna in Austria, and I worked as a teacher. I got a Fulbright scholarship to teach English there for a few years. And so I lived in Vienna for a couple more years and didn't really do much with the harp.
Right.
But then my visa ran out, and so I had to come back to the U.S., and I picked, I had a few friends in Philadelphia, and so I picked Philadelphia to be my new home.
Right.
And so I moved there, and Philly at the time was pretty cheap, you know, and pretty affordable, and lots of musicians and artists lived there because it was affordable, and it's kind of like a utopia in 2005 for art and music. And so
that's great.
That's when people started asking me to play on their records or play, you know, in their living rooms or at venues and stuff. And then I just started to play more with like rock music, eventually I started playing with some people that wanted to go on tour. I played with this guy Kurt Weill.
Yeah, I was going. I know who Kurt Weill is, but I was coming to that. That is too cool. You realize that, right?
Yeah.
How did that come about, actually?
Say it again?
How did that happen, actually?
We just met. I think we met at the post office or something. We're just like close friends, and you know, he would come to parties at my house, and I'm friends with his wife and kids, and he was, you know, he called me his lucky charm on one of his records. He's like, let's get a little harp on the record, and that was really my first time playing on someone's record. And then came time to go on tour, and he's like, let's take the harp on tour for a little tour, and that led to me just loving touring and
I'm sure
traveling, and playing in front of people.
That's a pretty good first job. Yeah,
it's not bad.
And a different. I guess you didn't see this coming at any point in your life prior to that, right? I mean,
it's a lot of happy surprises.
Yeah, I would say. Was that hard to tour with your harp? At that point, say rock and roll tour.
At that point, yeah, I guess so, because I had to ask for a lot of help. You know, when I was putting the harp in the van with Kurt, I would always have to ask the guys in the band to help me. And I like to be, my mom and I are both pretty independent musicians, and I like to be able to navigate lifting it by myself and putting it into my car and figuring out how to get it inside of a building by myself. But that tour was kind of hard because there are a lot of stairs and a lot of like putting a giant 6 foot tall, like 85-pound thing into a van with like a lot of guitars and amps and stuff. So that was kind of tricky.
Well, I was going with that one too. I guess particularly with him, there is some kind of amplification going with this harp also, right?
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
So I mean, it has a pickup. I take it.
It does. Yeah, it has a great pickup. It's 4 contact mics. It's like a state of the art.
Oh yeah.
Harp pickup that has 4 contact mics, so it gets all of the full range of the instrument. Okay.
Yeah. And then you run that through a Marshall head. No.
Yeah, I could. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I know that you could.
Yeah. Yeah. The harp feeds back with an amp a lot, so usually I just go direct.
Yeah. I mean, I do. I understand that. I play upright bass and violin, and they're both problematic.
You know the pain.
I do. I mean, they're problematic as far as miking them a bit and the amplification a bit. I mean, it's better these days than it's been.
Mm-hmm.
But, and I do understand, although an upright bass is not as heavy as a harp, it's still a problem. It's so awkward to get in places. So
that's exactly, and it's delicate.
Yeah, it is.
You don't want to or damage it. So
yeah, I mean they're I'm sure they're both real delicate instruments. So do tuning problems? Do you have tuning problems?
I tune it every time I play it, and so occasionally if the weather conditions are weird, like if I'm playing an outdoor festival or something, the harp will fall out of tune, or you know, just like little neighbor children are screaming in the back. If the weather conditions are weird, then the harp
it's kind of like any stringed instrument, I guess, is that way too. It's I guess I guess you can tune that. I was trying to think about tuning a piano as opposed to tuning a harp.
Right.
I mean, is it a chore to tune?
Is it a what?
A chore. Is it really
a chore?
Yeah.
No, it's not bad. I can do it in like maybe 7 minutes. I have a
good.
snark.
Yeah. Oh, really?
So I use a snark on it.
Okay.
It's not hard.
Oh, that's funny. For some reason I envisioned I don't know, but not a snark.
My mom has like a strobe tuner.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
But that thing is so heavy.
Oh, yeah. I had those too.
I like my little snark.
Yeah. I didn't realize a snark would do that. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
That's kind of, actually, that's better than a pedal steel. Pedal steel players have to tune 30 minutes, it seems like.
Oh, yeah.
And their pedals are stranger than yours, so. Well, now, how long did that tour with Kurt last?
That was maybe like 2 or 3 weeks.
That is too cool.
Yeah, that's fun.
Then, so what happens after that?
Well, I just kept living in Philly and playing on people's records, and then eventually I met Thurston Moore from Sonic Youth.
Yeah, I was going there.
Yeah, he asked me if I wanted to play on his upcoming record. We became buddies. He was going to California, to Malibu, to record with Beck, and so that was. He asked me if I would fly out to California and record with Beck, and I was like, "Wow, of course."
No, I don't want to do that. No, I mean,
right.
Yeah. No. Yeah.
So that was pretty amazing, and of course I was very nervous, but then got over the nervousness, and we really all we played really easily together. It was me and Beck and Thurston, and then a violinist named Samara Lebelsky, who's a really amazing free improv violin. So
that is really too cool. Now, when you flew out, you did not take your instrument, or did you?
Oh no, they rented one for me.
That's right. Yeah. I mean, I kind of felt that was the case. I mean, it's like flying with an upright bass. You just don't do that either. So.
Nah.
So okay, then that's. So what happens next?
Well, I just keep living in Philly and doing my thing. I was working a lot of jobs. So I worked at a record store for 8 years, which was really fun.
Yeah, I'm sure.
And I really love collecting records and getting to know new music and stuff. And I like the format of vinyl because of the artwork and stuff. I just feel like it's a really special.
It is.
Medium.
It is. I was lucky to grow up in the age where that was the medium, and it was great. Also, there is a guy from Shelby, you'll find this interesting, who is responsible for pressing like 90% of the vinyl that comes out of Nashville.
Oh.
A guy named Brent Bishop. He works for David and Gillian Welch, David Rollins and Gillian Welch.
Oh, I love them.
And they press most of the Nashville stuff. And their studio was located in Los Angeles, but during Christmas they moved it to Nashville. So
just this past Christmas?
Yes, just this past.
I see.
They already had a recording studio, but they were doing all the vinyl pressing and mixing in LA, but they wanted to move it to Nashville, so he spent Christmas driving back and forth from LA to Nashville over and over to bring the stuff back.
Oh my God! Yeah. Wow, so it's a long drive.
It is, but that is I do love the old. I love vinyl, but I also love the packaging.
Yeah, me too.
Liner notes and artwork.
Yeah.
That's a beautiful part of music that doesn't exist much in the digital age.
I agree, and just seeing all the people that contributed to it,
that you don't
really know about, and then also just the whole complete package is there. Like, it's a very thoughtful process when you're making a record, like you want everything to be just like you intend it to be. And I think with the digital stuff, like, you don't get the full picture of what the artist really wants.
Oh yeah, I'm sure. I mean, people no longer listen to music also through anything other than small speakers, so they miss so much.
You're missing it. I know. And also the fact that the streaming services do not pay the artist at all. It's basically just ripping off the artist.
Oh, you know what my last royalty check was? 13 cents. So
see, and that's probably for hundreds of plays.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, and it's been that way for a couple of years. I mean, I'll get them quarterly, but the days of the big royalty checks are gone.
It's a slap in the face, I think. So we have to do something about that, especially now because of the quarantine. Like, none of us can tour, and so we're relying on sales of our music to sustain our lives. And I think getting a 13-cent check for for your work is just, it's humiliating, I think. So
it is. And if you don't use that service at this point, no one hears your music. I mean, it's a big hole to dig out of.
And you're supposed to be grateful for the exposure,
but I've heard that since I was in the 6th grade, playing. Oh yeah, all these people will see you. You will get this exposure. I've been exposed to death in my whole life, so, and I'm sure every musician has been.
Right.
I've been teaching people here how to live stream so they can, with virtual tip jars and different stuff to try to help some of these people out locally. It's amazing that a large portion of musicians, sometimes you have to protect musicians from themselves because they're really good at the music part, but not very good at the business part. So
exactly,
yeah, and I was that way myself for a number of years. Till no longer the case, but a lot of people struggle, and some of this stuff is pretty simple. It's not that hard to figure out. But then a virtual tip jar or even a live streaming concert, this is not even close to the money anybody's used to making. So
I know. I was supposed to be on tour right now, so it's kind of hard to stay home and just not make anything, no income coming in.
Right. So. It is. And you don't really know when it will either. I mean, it's one thing when you kind of know.
Exactly.
You come off a tour, there's a time there till you find something else, but it's going to happen. But at this point, you have no idea when anything's coming back.
I know. I'm sure it's that way for a lot of people's jobs, though. I have a lot of friends who've been laid off from their jobs, even in the past week, and it's just a really hard time for all of us, I think. And
it is.
It doesn't really, your job, I don't know, it doesn't discriminate. This virus is like it's attacking everyone's livelihood, and people are getting it who have normally been healthy. So we just all have to look out for each other.
And then those that are working are in harm's way. So
yeah, I know. I think those people should be, the people that are working in the grocery stores and delivering Amazon packages and stuff should really be paid more. I think.
I agree. Like a hazard pay. So
yeah, exactly. I think they're the ones that are keeping our society alive
they are
now. So.
Probably many of them in the long run at the sake of their own health. So
yeah, exactly.
All right. So how did you get to LA?
Well, around that time I was working 4 jobs. I was working as a realtor's assistant, and then at the record store, and then I was also working at a venue in Philly, selling concessions. And then what's the 4th job? I was working as a babysitter.
Okay.
And so I was working those 4 jobs, and then I got nominated for this thing. In Philly, they have this Pew. It's the Pew Charitable Trust. You know, the Pew family has given a fellowship to 12 artists in Philadelphia every year. So they have this pot of money, and you have to go through a process to you have to get nominated to apply, and then you apply, and then people assess, like-minded musicians assess your work in a secret panel, and then if you get it, then you get a really nice chunk of money.
Right.
And then you have that money to record with, or there's no strings attached except you have to stay in Philly for 2 more years after you receive it. And so when I won it, actually, and it was maybe the happiest day of my life when I found out that I won this check, because I got to
quit
a couple of the jobs.
Yeah, exactly.
And I had freedom to make more music and to travel around and record myself, and to just really get more into the music and treat it as a career rather than just as a side thing that I was doing.
Right.
And so I was very, very honored to receive that fellowship. And then, so I made a promise to myself that I would explore moving out of Philly after
the 2 years.
That period was over.
Right.
So that's what I did. And I found, I moved to Los Angeles because of the work here. I wanted to get more into film world and TV world, maybe score some stuff, and to just, quite honestly, I'm not really good with winter. I really hate winter, and I've lived in some very cold places.
Yes, you have.
Extremely cold. Austria was cold.
Mm-hmm.
Rochester was cold.
Yeah, Philly is cold. Yeah.
Yeah, so I just wanted to live somewhere where there was perpetual summer and springtime, and because my mood is really altered when I am in the depths of winter, and
sure.
It really stops. When you play a giant thing that you have to haul around on a cart, you can't really take it in the snow, and you can't really wheel it down an icy sidewalk. So
True.
It kind of paralyzes. The weather is kind of paralyzing, at least to me, as far as playing the harp, playing gigs goes. When I saw that it had snowed, I was like, okay, I guess I have to try to cancel this thing I was supposed to do. So now I don't really have any excuse like that or any hindrance like that as far as weather goes.
So when you first got to LA, what was the first job with the harp that you got? You roll in there, nothing's going on, you don't know. Did you have contacts there before you went?
I had a few. I had some friends who had moved out. I think that there was a little bit of an exodus from the East Coast to the West Coast in a way, and maybe still is, just because New York is very, very expensive.
Yes, it is.
Cities on the East Coast are getting more expensive, and LA is just such a huge sprawl. So you can still find semi-affordable places to live, and there's a real creative zone here where a lot of people are working in the arts.
True, this is true.
Yeah, so I have a good friend here who's a composer for TV, and so I played on a couple of, and films too, so I played on a couple of her scores, and she introduced me to other composers, so I played on people's scores, and also, just the musical community here is very, very vibrant, so there's nice venues. Hopefully they'll still exist after the quarantine.
Yeah. I think venues. That a lot of musicians do not realize how important networking is to your career. And it's that way at every level. The more people you know, the more people you're nice to, the more work you get. It's
your reputation goes a long way.
It
for
does,
sure.
And it's good to network as much as you can. So I see that it seems to be working for you. Now, tell me how you wound up in England this past, I guess, late fall.
When did I go? I think it was actually January.
Yeah, it may have been. Yeah.
But I went there because it was time for me to make a new record, and I was I've always been a really big fan of this British band called Slowdive. They're
Mm-hmm.
kind of in the shoegaze world, like
Right.
90s, 2000s. Um, they were a very special band to me, and I was playing a music festival in Chicago last year, and they had a reunion. They've reunited, and they made a new record, which is beautiful. And they were playing the same festival, and so a friend introduced me to the singer Neil, songwriter and singer Neil Halstead, and we hit it off, and I was like, maybe I should ask Neil if he would want to produce my next record. It was just like, because a lot of times I produce my own records and make
Right.
it on my computer.
Yeah, I
So that's like
understand.
my process, is just to record by myself and to kind of get in my little zone by myself. But it's like, I want to have a new kind of sonic palette to explore, and he was down. Like, he had never recorded a harp, and he's not really a producer, so he mainly just makes his own stuff too. And
Right.
so it's like, let's just try it out. So I flew to his little town in Cornwall in England, and we worked together in his studio, and we made a record.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
Is it out yet? I mean, are you still?
Well, it's coming out in September. It's
Okay.
supposed to come out in September, but I might push it back because of all this stuff that's
Sure.
going on. I think in the fall, if things are reopened, then it's just going to be a crazy time when everyone's going to be touring and everyone is going to be competing for
Right.
the attention. And I want it to be a really special and thought out kind of release, because we worked so hard on it. So I'm going to wait till things kind of die down and people have a little bit more money to spend on concerts.
Right.
You know, I'm a little bit worried that because everyone will be out of a job and the economy will be
It'll take a
still
while,
kind of
I
bad.
think. Yeah, I
Yeah.
think it will. And I do think there'll be a ton of releases. I think you're right, because I know a lot of musicians who are cranking out stuff right now while they're doing a lot
Yeah.
of recording, a lot of writing. So I'm sure there's going to be a huge wave of new material from everyone. So
I know. My hope is also, I mean, besides the business competition part of it, which is like kind of scary to think about, but my hope is that maybe after we all come out of the quarantine, then maybe the U.S. will be a little bit more, like maybe it'll be an artistic renaissance. I've seen a lot of people online who are like, painting or drawing, and they're not really, like,
True.
in quotes, like a painter, that they
Right.
don't do
Oh, yeah.
paintings. I feel like a lot of people are finding a way for self-expression inside of their homes that maybe they hadn't had time to explore in the past for them. Maybe it's like, maybe we'll all come out of this being a little bit, giving a little bit more of our effort into our creative side.
Well,
you know what I mean?
I do. And one of the things I think too is during times like this, I think people really appreciate the arts more than they do when they're working, because they have this downtime, and what are they turning to? The arts. I mean,
Yeah.
whether it's music, I mean, any of the arts is part of what they're doing while they're shut in these days.
Isn't that cool? I feel like it's so beautiful, and it's like a tale as old as time. Like, it's really human beings just have a need to express themselves through
They do.
art, and that's like what makes us special as humans. I feel like the infrastructure, like the arts infrastructure, needs to be stronger, and like the government needs to really support the arts in a way, because that's what makes our society really cool.
It really is, and know that there's never enough money, never enough funding for the arts. First thing that gets cut is
I know.
arts funding, but then you get in a time like this, and people are wishing they had more art. So I think
I've seen a lot of like classes and lessons being given over the internet just out of people's generosity. Like, oh yeah, here, I'm going to teach you how to make this. And it's really cool.
I mean, I think it is. Even though it comes at the expense of the artist right now, everyone's paying a price, not just the artist.
Yeah.
And actually the artist, this we may see a lot of great art creation come out of this period.
Yeah, we'll see.
Yeah, and maybe not. Maybe it'll be such a bleak thing that we don't. But
yeah, I know. I don't know about you, but it definitely comes in waves. The creativity during this period, but then also just the feeling of like, what's the point? Kind of. This is hopeless. Like, what am I doing? What's the point? Or like just sadness. It's scary.
It is. I thought that during this time, God, there's such a wealth of material for me to write about, but I can't for some reason. I mean, it's one of those things that I think I'm going to have to live more of it to write it right now. And things come to me in waves too. I'm kind of like you. I go through periods where I can't sleep sometimes for days with creative stuff going on, and then it disappears. So.
Isn't that funny? Yeah. And then it'll just strike you, And I think you just have to be kind to yourself and not try to force it out, and just know that I've heard a lot of people say that actually, because maybe people have felt pressure, like, oh, I have to write something during this time, like I'm home, I should be writing something, but really just be nice to yourself and just not, understand that like whatever you choose to do during this quarantine time is the right thing as far as like, creativity goes, and if you need to watch movies all day, just do it.
I mean, I think that's right. I think that's the right attitude. It's kind of like I wrote for years and years, and then when I made it a job of writing every day, writing for other people, writing for every day, for me, it just was not as good as when I let it come on its natural, stuff. I don't know.
Are you a journalist, or do you write fiction, or?
I write everything. I'm a musician, but I write, I podcast. I'm unfortunately an artsy type of guy.
I like it. I like it.
I've done it all my life. I mean, I don't really know much more than this. It's I've written since I was a child, fairly successfully over the years. So it's been good for me.
So music writing.
Oh well, no, I do poetry. I do books, whatever.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah.
So
all around.
I'm a word person. I'm a musician, but I'm about words, probably more than I am about the music. Although I played music all my life, so it's just a medium for my words. I think a lot of times, which is okay. I guess.
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah. So, lyrically, do you have to do stuff lyrically? Do you sing?
I don't know. I love words. I love to write too, but I'm too shy to let people read what I write. And I think also I love to read, and just I love language. And like putting beautiful words together. But I'm not a lyricist, and I think I just respect other people's lyrics so much that I don't really. My voice is also really bad. I'm a terrible singer. So
do you hear melodies? Do melodies? Yeah. I mean, I'm envious. I know songwriters who are melody driven, and then try to match the words to their melodies first. My words come first, and then I have to match them up. But
interesting.
But I think it would be wonderful to hear the melody. I mean, I do occasionally, but for the most part, it's the words first, and but I do know really good writers who do it the other way too. So
you'll have to send me a link to some of your music. I'd love to hear it.
I play in a band now.
Oh, cool.
So it's yeah, I will, and also I will. Well, I need you to send me links to your stuff too, so I can.
Oh yeah.
We'll talk about that in just a minute. So, well, what else do I need to know about you?
I don't know. I I think you learned about everything.
Well, you know, one of the things I really like about these is we have not met, but I feel like I know a lot about you. You know, and this is one of the rewarding parts of this is you can, if you do not do something like this, two things happens. No one will actually know your story years after you're gone. Mm-hmm. They may know your music, but they will not know about you.
Right.
And in my case, I've known musicians for years, and then I sit down and do a podcast interview with them, and I know them better. I know stuff that I did not know about them, and have known them for years. So
that's cool. Yeah, so, yeah, I like it. It's really cool it's cool that anyone cares really about your story. You know, it's nice to be asked.
Actually, people care more than you think.
Cool.
I did not believe that, but the viewers and the listeners have convinced me that people are interested in hearing the stories of musicians, and it's not just. I mean, a lot of mine have local ties, but it seemingly doesn't matter. People like they like to see where the music come from. I think it's a human interest story.
Yeah.
So
I think so too. Yeah, my parents locally my parents live in Polkville in Cleveland County. So that's where our family lives right now, or that's where my family's farm is. The Lattimore farm is in Polkville. And it's really nice to go back during the holidays or whenever I'm on tour and playing Asheville or something. I'll spend time on the farm, and they live on a cattle farm.
Oh, that's good. Yeah, that's good. Well, Mary, I appreciate you taking the time to do this.
Well, thank you. I had so much fun.
I hate it had to be under these type of circumstances, but again, I thank you for it, and I hope for better times for us both and all.
Thank you. Me too. And I hope everyone is staying inside.
Yes, please do.
Please stay inside. Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate you calling.
All right. You're welcome.